Oh, okay. 111a. Let's start where we finished yesterday. So Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan are interpreting these verses. That's Reish Lakish understood that only 1/3 of Shem, Noach's son, are going to be around. Meaning he said there's going to be 3 parts of the world, and 2 of them are going to be cut off, and 1/3 is going to remain. Now, which third? So Rashi explains that Noach had 3 sons, and each of them had 3 sons. So if you go down the line, 2/3, so 2 of Noach's sons, and then the next 2 had 3 sons. So those two, their children are also going to be wiped out. Only 1/3 is going to remain. To that, Rabbi Yochanan said, no, that's not nice to interpret the verse that way. Rather, Ela afilu shlishi shel Noach. Even 1/3 of Noach is going to remain. So afilu shlishi shel Noach means from all of Noach's children, there's going to be more than 1/3. So from all of Noach's children, there hopefully will be at least 1/3 of the world, and that third is going to be spared. So it's interesting that Rashi says that, well, it sounds like the Jews are going to be 1/3 of the world, right? Now, and they're going to be spared, but he said if the Jews aren't so numerous that they don't make up 1/3 of the world, then the converts and the righteous Gentiles will have to fill in fill in that whatever's remaining of the third of the world, and they'll be spared. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Kianochi balti b'chem v'lakachti eschem echad meir v'shnayim mimishpacha. It sounds like Hashem said that I'm only going to take 1 from each city and 2 from each family. So says Reish Lakish, Devarim kiksavan. There's going to be very few people that are going to be redeemed when Mashiach comes. So that's it. 1 from each city and 2 from each family, and that's it. That's not so nice to read it that way. I think you read it in a more positive way. Ella echad meir mezake kol ha'ir. You're going to have 1 guy in the city who's going to save the whole city. His righteousness will spare the whole city, and the whole city will be saved. Vishnayim mishpacha mezakin kol mishpacha. 2 from the family are going to save the whole family. So just 2 people can save an entire family. Yosef Kahana came to Rav. Yosef coming to Baruch Savan. So Rav Kahana was sitting in front of Rav, and he was interpreting this, and he learned it like Reish Lakish, like the verse says, 1 from a city, 2 from each family. And Amalei Rav told him, no, lo niklei damartu lahachi. That's not right. That's not the right way to read it. Ella echad mir mezakin kol ha'ir, shnayim mezakin kol ha'mishpacha. 1 from each city can save the whole city. His merits can spare the city, and 2 from each family can spare the whole family. Okay. So now, this is a parenthetical. He saw, I guess Rav saw that somebody was Kahana, he was shampooing his hair, and I guess it was too much. So Vesalik v'Yosef kamei Rav. So if Kahana went and he shampooed his hair and then sat in front of Rav, Amar lei, sorry, v'lo timtza b'eretz hachayim. You're not going to be found in the land of life. Meaning you're overly indulging in this world, and you can't have both. You can't have this world and the next world. So he asked him, Amar lei, mila kalaitali. So you're cursing me? Is that what you're saying? So he said, I'm not cursing you, just reading a verse. Amar lei, krokamino. It's just the pasuk says, lo timtza Torah, b'misha mechai atzma. Someone who wants to advance in Torah and merit Torah study in its ultimate way, that's not going to be found by somebody who's overindulging in the pleasures of this world. So that's what he was telling me. Tanya Rabbi Simai Omer Nemar L'Kachti Eschem Lila the psukim regarding God taking us out of Egypt, the 4th expression of redemption, corresponding to the 4th cup at the Pesach Seder. It says, "V'lakachti eschem lila I'm going to take you from me as a nation, which many interpret to mean that we're going to go get the Torah. I'm going to enter into a treaty with you. And it says, and I'm going to bring you into the promised land, into Eretz Yisrael. Makish, so it compares Yitziyasan min Mitzrayim, Libiyasan la'aretz, the leaving of Egypt to the entering into Eretz Yisrael. Now this next is like baffling. I don't know what to do with it. Ma biyasan la'aretz, entering into Eretz Yisrael is only Shnayim Meshishim Ribut, 2 out of every 600,000. So 1 out of every 300,000. Af Yitziyasan min Mitzrayim, Shnayim Meshishim Ribut. So too, leaving Egypt was 2 out of every 600,000. Okay, let's say there are 2 million people that left.
Right.
3 million people that left. What does that mean? 5 people left Egypt? Unless it means from all 210 years, meaning there's a total of 3-4 generations. Okay, so let's give it 10 million people. I don't know. You have 1 million leaving Egypt. I don't know. The Medrash says that they're different. The Medrash talks about 1 out of every 500 was spared.
I think they just talking about of the 600,000 that left. Only 2 went into Israel. Kollel. There was a 2 out of 600,000.
But just like 2 out of 600 went into Israel, so too 2 out of 600 left Egypt. Ma biyasan art shnayim mishisha ribui. It was 2 out of 600,000. Kollel and Yeshua, good. Af Yitziyasim, so to the exodus of Egypt. We're saying only 2 of those got to enter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought it meant there were just 2 out of 600,000 that left because everyone else died in the plague of darkness. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
The number of Jews left at the time of the Exodus was but a tiny fraction, 1 over 300,000. Original population of the original population. The rest perished during the plague of darkness.
Crazy. I don't know what this means.
Whoa. Yeah.
The Medrash, Rashi brings that out. The Medrash has a 1 out of every 500 survived the plague of darkness. I mean, I don't know.
210 generations lived and died there before.
That adds up to 1 million of people. 2 million. I mean, how many people are? I don't know.
It's hard to, yeah.
I don't know what that means. Yeah.
Even the footnote.
Yeah. Okay. So Amar Rava v'chein Moshe Mashiach. So too when Mashiach comes. Shenamar v'ata sama kimenu reha. I'm going to place you like the days of your youth. Ukiyoma lusa merit Mitzrayim. Like the day that you left Egypt. Same equation is going to be when Mashiach comes. Yeah. Tanya Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yossi, Pamachas Nichnasti Alexandria Shel Mitzrayim. One time I entered into the Alexandria Shel Mitzrayim, the city in Egypt. Interesting. Matzasi Zaken Echad. I found a certain old man over there. But Amar Li, he told me, Bav Erecha, let me go show you Ma Asu Avos Alav. What my ancestors did to your ancestors. The Egyptian tour guide is telling him, let me show you what we did to you. The point that how did he show him? Maybe it was written down in a book. Maybe it was a certain physical showing. I don't know exactly how he showed them this, but either written down or maybe there's a certain part of it that you could actually see the remnants. So Mehem Tavu, from your people they drowned. Biyam Mehem Hargu B'Charev, we killed them with the sword. Mehem Aku B'Binyan, we smushed them into buildings. Yeah. Yeah, so he went and he showed him. Either he showed that it was written down or he showed a physical edifice of this. Somehow he showed them this. Okay. So the Al-Davar Zeh Nanash Moshe. On this matter, Moshe got punished. Shenamar. It says, Ume'az Basi al Paro L'Davar Shnacha Heirel Amazeh. From the time I went to Paro, to tell him, by the way, let the Jews out, you've caused evil to the nation. So now, so Moshe is saying basically like, come on. You sent me, I go, and my nation is suffering. So Amar LaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's the difference between you and your forefathers. Amar LaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chaval Abdin, Velo Mishtachin. So Chaval on the people that were lost and that don't remember. Meaning, the people that were lost, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Chaval that they're not here anymore. Unfortunate that they're not here anymore, and that we don't find people like them around. Why? Good lesson for life. I appeared myself to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the Kel Shakai, with my name Kel Shakai, and guess what? Below here, Hura Amidosai. Not one time did they ask me why I'm doing this. How could it be? Below Amruli Mashmecha. They didn't ask me what's your name, meaning what trait are you using. They just accepted. Amarti la'Avram, kum hisalech ba'aretz la'arko l'rachba. Get up and go to the land along its width and its length, the land that I'm going to give you. Okay. Bikesh makom likvar Sarah. So he wanted a place to bury Sarah. Below matzah, he wasn't able to find one. Ad shekana ba'arba me'ah shekel kesef. Until he was able to finally buy it for 400 shekel. And guess what? Below here, Amidosai. He never one time asked me, "It's not fair. How could you do this? You killed Sarah. Now I can't find a burial plot for her." He went and he did it and he paid the money. Amartili, I told you, it's like Gurba Aretz Hazos, live in the land and I'm going to bless you. So now, Bikshu of other Mayan Lishtos, Yitzchak servants requested water to drink. The low matzah, they weren't able to find it. Ach Asum Riva, until a quarrel broke out. Shema by Riva Roe Grar in Roe Yitzchak. A fight broke out between the shepherds of Grar and the shepherds of Yitzchak. Lamor Lanu Mayim. Give us water. And I told him that you'll live and you'll be okay. Even when a challenge arose, he didn't think after me. He wasn't he didn't question my actions. He did what he had to do. So Marti Yaakov, I told Yaakov, the land you're lying upon, I'm going to give you. So now, Bikesh Makol and Toa Olovalo Matzah. He was requesting a place to go plant his tent, to go set up tent, but he wasn't able to find it until finally, until he had to buy an area for 100, also a certain currency, 100 coins. And also below here, Achamidosai, they never questioned my actions. Below Amruli, and they didn't ask me, Mashmecha, Hashem, what is your name? Meaning, what traits are you using that you're acting this way with me? And all of a sudden, you, Moshe, Vata Martali, Mashmecha, what is your name? First you asked me what my name is. And now you're telling me that you, Hashem, are not saving your nation. So Atatira, you're going to see Asher Esel Paro, the Milchamas Paro Ataroa, the Iataroa, the Milchamas Shloshim Echan Malachim. You're going to see what I will do to Paro, but you will not see what I will do to the 31 kings that we had to go and conquer Eretz Yisrael with. So it sounds like this is we know that Moshe was punished for the whole thing with the water. That is, speak to the rock, hit the rock. It was decreed that he couldn't go. And according to this Gemara, this is another reason that Moshe couldn't go into Eretz Yisrael, because he questioned Hashem. So what the difference between those two is and why you have to have both is probably in a footnote. But yeah, okay. So Moshe went quickly, swiftly, and then he bowed down. So hold on, what did he see? So this after the Chet Egel. So what did Moshe see? So Moshe saw, what did he see? Meaning, which one of the attributes of mercy did Moshe see? So Rabbi Chanina ben Gamla Amar Erech Apayim. Moshe saw, I guess it's some kind of how do you see that? He understood. Either maybe seeing means he understood it, or there was some kind of angelic celestial being, which was the trait of Erech Apayim. Rabbanan Amri Emesra. He saw truth. Okay, fine. So now Tanya, Kimanda Amr Erech. According to the opinion that says that Moshe saw the trait of slow to anger. Kimanda Amr Erech Apayim Ra the Tanya Kishala. That's the following brisa. Kishala Moshe l'marom matzah l'chadosh baruch hu sheyoshev v'kosef erech apayim. He saw that Hashem was sitting and writing, "I'm slow to anger." Amar lefanav Ribbono Shalom erech apayim l'tzadikim. So he said, "Isn't that trait only for tzadikim?" So Hashem told him, "No, Amar lo af l'rishayim." So Moshe told them, Amar le Rishayim Yavedu, Rishayim, get rid of them. So Amar le, he told them, don't worry, you'll see. You'll see that which you want to see. Meaning, when the Jews ended up sinning with the Chet Egel, Amar lo. So Hashem told them, Lo kach amartali. So the Jews sinned by the sin of the golden calf. And Hashem tells Moshe, slow to anger is only for the righteous, right? And therefore, everyone else is going to perish. So Amar lefanav Ribono Shalom Moshe told Hashem, wait, hold on. Didn't you tell me that's also for the Rishayim? Below kach amartali after Rishayim. So meaning that when Hashem told him that it's slow to anger is for the Rishayim, so Hashem told Moshe, you're going to need this. You'll see. And then at the sin of the golden calf, Moshe needed it. So thank God that slow to anger is also for the not only for the righteous, but also for the wicked. That's what the verse says. How great is your power? According to that which you spoke, meaning that which you told me that Erech Apayim, slow to anger is for the wicked. So thank God that you're using this now, and your strength is so great. Yeah. Okay. Rabbi Chaga Havisalik Ba'azil B'darga de Be'Rabba Bar Shila. Rabbi Chaga was going up to the attic, up on the stairs of the house of Rabbi Bar Shila, either into his house, into his attic. Yeah, probably into his house. In the academy. Okay, I guess the stairs going up to the yeshiva. Okay, so Shamei Lahal Yenuka, he heard a little child saying the following: the Amar, Eidosecha nemnu ma'od lebeis chanav kodesh Hashem le'orich yamin. So your Eidosecha, your statues are very trustworthy. So of your house, the Beisecha Nava Kodesh, for your house is going to be a holy abode, a holy dwelling place. Le'orech yamin, which literally means for elongated days, for a long time. Now, interpreted here, a long time means it's referring to the trait of slow to anger. Erech Apayim. There's going to be many days because Hashem is slow to anger. Now, V'samech lay, and next to this verse, he said, Tila Moshe. So Amar Shmamina Erech Apayim Ra. So these two verses was Moshe speaking, and he said, and the verse before this verse. So once again, yeah, the very beginning of Psalm number 90 starts off Tila Moshe Ish Elokim, a prayer to Moshe, the man of God. And then a few verses later, it talks about his trait of slow to anger. So when he heard this child putting these two verses together, he understood that which Moshe saw was the trait of anger, as opposed to the other opinion, which was the trait of truth. Okay. Amr Belazar, Amr Bechanina, Baruch Hu. In the future, Hashem's going to put Lios Atara Berosh, Kol Tzadik V'Tzadik. A crown will be placed upon each and every righteous individual. Shenemar, as it says in Yeshaya, it's going to be that day is going to come. The God of Legions, what's he going to do? La'ateres tzvi, u'letziras tifara. He's going to put a crown of delight, and u'letziferes tifara is some kind of, not a crown, but I call it a diadem. It's some kind of not necessarily a crown, but goes all the way around the head. Another form of thing you put on your head that's very beautiful. So he's going to put this on either a crown or a diadem. He's going to put it on the she'er amo for the remaining of the nation. And now we're going to interpret this whole verse, and then the following verse. Okay, what does this mean? Ma'ila teres tzvi u'letzipiras tifara. What does it mean? A crown for the a crown of delight and a diadem of glory. What does that mean? So it's a crown for those that do God's will, and a crown for those that await his redemption. For those people, they're going to get a crown in the future. The ones who do his will and the ones who await his redemption. Maybe you think everybody gets a crown. Talmud Lomar l'sher amo. No, only to l'sher amo. Now, literally, l'sher amo means the remaining people. So, which remaining people? So using the word she'er can also mean remnants. L'mi shemesim atzmo kishirayim. To the one who makes himself like remnants, right? The crumbs that no one takes, you step on the crumbs, whatever, you don't take it seriously. But so too, the person is very humble. He humbles himself and doesn't have this big ego, this inflated ego. That's going to be the people that are going to get the crown in the future. Next verse. Next verse. U'leruach mishpat. The spirit of judgment is going to be on who? La yoshev ala mishpat. To the ones that sit on justice. V'legvura. And the ones that have a lot of strength that return from battle of the gates. So what does this mean? What does this mean? U'leruach mishpat. The spirit of justice is referring to Zeharode es Yitzhar, the one who tramples upon, the one who controls. Controls. That's a nice way of saying it. Controls the Yitzhara. So Rashi says he's like Boit Yitzhar. Boit's like more intense. He's more like disgusted. More like kicks his Yitzhara. Boit is like the kick, and Rashi then adds, and he returns and does tshuva from the Aveira that he did. It's interesting. I don't know why Rashi has to say that it was after he did the Aveira, he repents. It should just be he just doesn't like a Yitzhara and prevents himself from sinning. I don't know. It's interesting. Okay, that's one. So to that, okay, fine. So that's one. So the Ruach Mishpat is really the one who is Shofet Asruka, the one who judges, who's in control of his Yetzirah. Uli Yoshev HaMishpat, who's the one who sits on judgment? Zehadan Dinam Islamito, the judge who actually judges the true judgment. He comes to the correct, truthful conclusion. Uli Gvura, the strong one, the mighty one, is Zehamizgaber BeYitzro, the one who fights against Yetzirah. So here Rashi says, interesting. He says he's Margiz Yetzer Tova Yetzirah. So it's really a Gemara in Brachos. He angers his Yetzirah against his Yetzer Tov. So that's the Gemara in Brachos. Now, what does that mean? So Rashi here says what it means is if the Yetzirah tells him go do an Aveira, so it's not just that he doesn't do the Aveira, he runs and does a mitzvah. He uses that moment that he could do an Aveira and he runs and does a mitzvah. So this misgaber language of being strong is a stronger language than the beginning of the verse. Just controls the Yetzirah. This one's actually he overcomes it. He takes that urge for the sin and goes and does something positive. Okay. Meishive melcham, the ones that return from battle. Zesha nosev and nosim ben melcham Torah is referring to the one who deals back and forth in the milchanto shel Torah, in the war of Torah. Torah is often referred to a war. It's a battle. You have to fight it out. So yeah. Sha'ara, what does it mean, the gate? Elu, this is us. Shemashkimu u'marivim b'atek nezeh b'atek mujashos. The ones that come early, at least we got half of it down, yeah? The ones that come early, or daven 8:30 Marav or 8:30 Mincha coming up, and leave the shul very late. So yeah, that's referring to. Amra midas adin lefnei Kadosh Baruch Hu says the attribute of justice in front of Hashem. Ribona Shalom. God, manishtana elu me'elu. How come these people have this special blessing coming to them as opposed to everybody else? So Amar Allah, Hashem said, "V'gam elu b'yayin shagu u'b'sheichar ta'u." So it sounds like that the other people they end up making mistakes with wine and they go off the path with drinking. It sounds like people that have these traits are not going to go and drink and make mistakes. They're going to stay on the right path. The ones that overcome their Yitzhara, the ones that are learning Torah, rise early, rise late. Everyone else is at risk of going off the straight path, is straying off the path. Paku Palila, they might come and Paku Palila. So what's Paku Palila? The ain Puka Elaganim. They might stumble in judgment. So the judges that stumble in judgment are going to stumble into Gehenna. Abigail told David that you shouldn't do this. It's going to come to be a stumbling block for you. You're going to fall into Gehenna. So the word of Puka is referring to Gehenna. The ain Pelila, the word Pelila, Ela Dayanin. I'm going to give you judgments. So this is referring to the judges that are going to stumble if they don't judge properly are going to fall into Gehenna. Yeah. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, good. New Mishnah. It's like, phew. Okay. Ansh is a long Mishnah. So we learned a few times already that there's a city that if most of the city gets convinced to do idol worship, so now they get judged differently than an individual that does idol worship. An individual gets stoned. This city gets killed by the sword. An individual's property stays where it is. This city, all the property gets destroyed. It's put in, so now it's interesting. Out of all the people that that get killed with one of the 4 capital punishments, this one, they do not get a portion in the next world. Now, I was happy because when I read this, it bothered me because we learned earlier in Sanhedrin that person who gets capital punishment gets atonement. So they should also get atonement. So I saw they point out that Tosa earlier asked the question, and Tosa says that it's the people that don't get the next world are the ones that for some reason they weren't able to execute judgment on them. Whatever the case is going to be, they avoided judgment somehow. But if you get capital punishment, at least according to Tosa, that you will get atonement and you do have a chance in the next world. Sounds like there are other opinions about this, but at least that's one opinion. Okay, Shnamar, how do you know that they don't get the next world? Shnamar, Yatsu Anashim B'nei Blial Mikirbecha. Simple understanding is that they don't get the next world either, even with a capital punishment. But Shnamar Yatsu, the men went out, B'nei Blial, lawless men, Mikirbecha from amongst your midst, Ve'adichu Yoshvei Iram, and they went and they convinced, they subverted, okay. They subverted. Sounds like a submarine. Okay, they subverted. They subverted the inhabitants of their city, the people living in their city. Now, the people that are being killed have to be from that city and from that tribe. They have to be from that tribe. If they're visitors, it's not going to work. You have to have at least half the city, 51% of the city has to be have to have been submerged by the subverters. The subverters have to be male. If the women convince you, or the children convince you, or the submerged is only a minority of the city, or if the subverters are from outside the city, then you judge everyone like an individual. So even though now you're doing idol worship, however, you're going to get judged with stoning and not as a ir hanidachas. So you have to only be convinced, only be subverted by males. They have to be from that city, and you have to convince most of the city to do it. Now, this is the part that probably makes it very hard. Each one of the people in the city has to have a warning and 2 witnesses, like everything else. So now it was only hard for me because I thought of a city as containing like 100, like 1 million people. But it could very well be cities that had 100 people. I mean, city by their rules can be a small city. It doesn't have to be a whatever defines a city. Right. As long as you Kamar Megillah, as long as you have city that that has 10 people that are always available for a minyan, that already constitutes that constitutes somewhat of a city. So it could be a city is much smaller than we think. It's not so hard. Just convince 30 people, 40 people to do Avodah Zarah, and now you're in business or whatever. You're not in business, but yeah. So wrong business. Yeah, exactly. Zeh Chomer, this we just said. Zeh Chomer b'yechidim mi b'merumim. There's a stringency by an individual who does idol worship than a majority. Shayechidim b'skila, they get stoning. That's more severe than Yernidachas. Lefikach mamonam. Therefore, since they get such an intense punishment, their money is saved, their property is spared, so they can keep their cars. Yeah. So v'amarubin b'sayif. But when you have a majority that they get killed by the sword, lefikach mamonam avad. Therefore, their cars go bye-bye. So now we're going to interpret the verses that are all talking about Ir Nidachas. Haketakas Yosha Irazot. You should surely smite this city with the sword. So Hachamarta v'higmalta halaveres makom makom Hare'elu matilinosa. So imagine you have 100 people in a city, 51 have been submerged by the subverters to go do idol worship, but now you have the traveling businessmen are going through town. Well, hold on, they now just added 10 people to the city, so you might have 51 people that were now doing idol worship, but instead of having 100 people in your town, you have 110 people in your town. So that's no longer the majority. So the travelers can actually save the city. And now we're going to keep taking out the word shenemar because it doesn't. Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So shenemar. So take out the word shenemar. So because it's not a proof. It's just now we're doing the next verse. Hachrem oso. So destroy the city. V'as kol asherba, and everything in the city. V'as behemta, and even the animals. Lefi charav, according to the sword. Mikan amru, and we're going to interpret this in the Gemara what this means. From here you learn nichse tzadikim shebesocha ovdim shebechutz laplitim, the property, the possessions of the righteous that are in the city, they get lost, and the ones outside the city, they get spared. The sharashayim and the wicked, the wicked people, no matter if their possessions are inside or outside the city, they're lost. We'll see what that means in the Gemara. Take out the word shenemar, it doesn't fit. Next verse. Okay. As kol shlala tikros el tuch rechava. Keeps you on your toes, right? So all the booty, all the food, all the possessions, everything in the city, you have to bring into the square. They used to have, like, I don't know. I remember in downtown Boston, at least they had this area downtown, the square. They had the square where you hang out. So you gather all into that square, into that area where and you put it all there, and then you destroy it. Now, what happens if you don't have one? In Ein La Recho, no problem. Make one. Os La Recho, make a new hangout square, which will be inaugurated by the burning of everyone's possessions. Yeah. So Haisa Rechava Chutzala, if you had this city square happen to be outside the city, no problem. Konsen Osal Socha, bring it over there and burn it. Shnemer V'Savta Be'esh Esair V'As Kol Shalak Kalila Hashem Lokacha. So you should go and burn everything in the city, and it all should be burnt up to Hashem. Shlala v'lo shalol shamayim. Only your possession, only your booty, not God's booty. What does that mean? Mikan amru. From here we learn hahekdeshos. Anything that was sanctified. Let's say you're going to give your tools to the upkeep of the temple. So you made it hekdesh, you made it holy, so that you redeem. You don't burn that. Not yours to burn. It's not your possession. Hekdeshos shabbat yipadu. You redeem them. Utrumos yirkavu truma. Truma you let rot. We'll see what the case is in truma. Meiser sheni. So Meiser sheni, the one that's usually brought up to Yerushalayim, your second tithe, so to speak. The one that's brought in years 1, 2, 4, and 5. So that and Kisvei Kodesh and things that have, and holy scriptures, scrolls, nowadays, whatever we put into Shemus, all these things, for that, you gone through. That's going to be buried. That does not get burnt. Yeah. Kollel la Hashem lokech. You should burn this fully to Hashem, your God. What does that mean? Amar Yishlakish, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, says Yishlakish, says Hashem, Imata osa din be'ir nidakas. If you do judgment in the Ir nidakas, in the wayward city, Mala ani aleichem kilu atem ma'olim ola kollel lefanai. If you burn up all this property and you carry out proper judgment in the wayward city, I will consider it like you have burnt a ola offering. An ola offering is one that gets fully burnt to Hashem. Ola means to go up. It fully goes up to Hashem. So you burn that offering. It's going to be viewed as you brought an ola in front of me that was totally consumed. The Haisa tel olam. You have that part that you just burnt up, that city that got destroyed. That's really that part that got burnt. It remains a mound forever. So what does that mean? So it means lo saset ganos u pardesim. No gardens and orchards can be built in that area. That's not where you're going to put your park. Yeah, Divrei Rabbi Yossi Glili. Rabbi Akiva says no. Lo tibana od lekamus shahaisa. You can't build it back to what it was, and put houses there and things like that, and make it an inhabitable area. However, aval nas is he ganus upardesim. But to put orchards and gardens, that's fine. You just can't make it an inhabitable place again. He's referring to the place that got burnt, or even referring to the entire city. I assume just the place that got burnt up, right?
Because the whole city doesn't get.
Right, exactly. So, okay, so it's that part that got burnt up. Yeah. Velo yidbak biyadcha me'uma. So nothing should from all the spoils, nothing should literally cling in your hands. Don't take anything with you. Why? Shekol zman sharishayim ba'olam, as long as they're rishayim in the world, rishayim sounds like an even in their possession, because you can't take anything with it. As long as there's evil in the world, it sounds like it's funny. Rishayim means the people, but we're interpreting here to mean the people and their possessions. It's interesting because Amalek gets the same thing, right? Amalek was the same thing. Nothing's left of them. Amalek was no children, no women, no animals, nothing. Here's a similar idea. All the possessions, you can't take any spoils with you. Why? Shekol's mantra shayim ba'olam, charon af ba'olam. As long as there are shayim in the world, there are wicked people in the world, there is charon af. One of the different names of the different attributes of God's anger is called charon af. So ba'olam of
one footnote indicates it was completely burned in Ola, so the whole city was burned.
The whole city was burned, or the whole area where they brought the possessions? Which one?
Burned completely, indicative of being like an Ola. That's effective, right?
Right. I mean, the possessions are burned, right? It doesn't say they burn the whole city.
It says that the city is burned.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Amazing. Good, Jules. Thank you. So the whole city. Okay, fine. Just go back for a second. The whole city is burned completely, and that city can never again have anything, not even orchard or gardens, or it can have that. It just can't be inhabitable again. Oh, very good. Hey, how can I have the whole city on fire?
It's not that big.
Right, it's not that big, and you have Jared there, so it'll be perfect.
You have Jared.
Jared not there. You have to know how it burns to know how to put it out, right? We don't have time for investigations. We need to burn right now, Jared. So okay. So when you remove the wicked from the city, nistalik charon af min ha'olam, therefore then the anger will be removed in the world from the world. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch that the perishing of Rishayim is a big happiness for the world. We're happy when the wicked get removed from the world. Tanu Rabbanan, Yatsu hein velo shluchim. It's interesting. The people that are submerged has to be done by the subverters and not their messengers. At first glance, this makes no sense. Why? Imagine you have two guys that sent two more guys to convince the whole city to do Avodah Zarah. So the two new guys are your new subverters, right? They're the new guys. Who cares who is the original, whose idea was originally? It sounds like, only the guys that had the idea to convince the whole city to idol worship, they're the ones it has to only convince through them. So I saw one answer was, no. Let's say Reuben and Shimon send women or children as their messengers, right? So women and children are not liable. They're not the ones that can give a city the status of Ir Nidachas. So the rule is it's the two people that have to subvert the city, right? And not their messengers. It can't be done through messengers. It has to be done through the original. So the question is, okay, but now that they're a messenger and they're convincing everyone else to do it, so that should still work. So either it's referring to the women and the children, or maybe a different answer. So anashim has to be anashim, has to be two, plural anashim. So ish is one, anashim is two. Ain anashim, has to be two men. Sounds like one guy goes and convinces everybody he's not going to go. You need two people. So yeah, davar acher. I'm thinking now of certain individuals that started different religions. One guy convincing everybody. Interesting. Right? What would happen? You have to have two men. Guess you probably have some disciples with him. I don't know.
Right. A lot of disciples.
Right. Ein anashim pakus mishtayim. You need two. Davar acher. Another interpretation is anashim v'lo nashim. Sounds like anashim. Maybe really one is good. Maybe not. But anashim is referring to men and not women. V'lo nashim. Anashim v'lo ktanim. Men and not children. B'nei blial. They have to be people that are lawless. What's lawless mean? So, banim sheparku ol shamayim mitzavareim. It's people that remove the yoke of heaven from amongst their necks. They threw off God and his laws. Mikir becha from amongst your midst. Below min asfar. So it's interesting. The city has to be surrounded by other Jewish inhabitants, by other cities, not a city that's on the border of with non-Jewish neighbors. Now, we had at one point, at some point, Sanhedrin Bava that we don't maybe Sanhedrin, we don't do the border because it's gonna make it much more dangerous now. If you destroy the border city, then the non-Jews can come in and capture it easier. Is that the reason over here? Rashi says it's a verse. The verse says has to be in the middle and it can't be on the border. Okay. Yoshve Iram below Yoshve Iracharis. Only that the citizens of that city and not the citizens of a different city. Laymore to say and also you need to have witnesses and warning for each and every person that goes and worships idols. Okay. When the Jews originally entered into Eretz Yisrael, so can one city be divided up into two tribes or not? So that's going to be a dispute, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. So if you imagine like you inhabited whatever it was, I don't know, not Yerushalayim, because that was an exception between Yehuda and Binyamin, but let's say, I don't know, Beit Shemesh, whatever it was. You go to a city in Israel, right now, Tiberia, so can that be only one tribe inhabit that city? Or you can split it with two tribes. Itmar. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Cholkin ir achas l'shnei shvatim. You can divide one city into two tribes. Reish Lakish Amar ein cholkin ir achas l'shnei shvatim. No, you may not divide one city into two tribes. That's not what happened. Now Rabbi Yochanan, who says that you could do it, is going to bring a few proofs on his side, and one of them is going to be our Mishnah, and that's probably why this is mentioned over here. Esvei, Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, ad sheyihiyu medicheha me'oso ir u me'oso shevet. The Mishnah said that the subverters, the two instigators, have to be from that city and from that tribe. So what does it mean from that city and from that tribe? Doesn't from that city obviously from that tribe, because each city only has one tribe. So what's the added and from that tribe? Oh, ma'ilav afal gav demedichecha me'oso ir. Even though the subverters, the instigators, are from that city, but then there's a second qualification. Even though you're from that city, but you have to be ikamoso shevet any lolo. If you're from that tribe, great. If not, not. So what do you see? You can divide up one city into two tribes. So how is Reish Lakish going to respond? He said, "Lo, dinafale b'Yerusha." Maybe these two maybe the way you'll find two subverters, these two instigators, you'll find that they're from a different tribe because they got an inheritance. They got land as an inheritance from their exactly, from their mother who inherited. So they got the land as inheritance, or or they got another inheritance as a present. So that's how you could have even in one city different tribes, because they got land either as a present or from the mother who got from her father as an inheritance. Esvei, another proof. So another attack. Sorry. Also by Yoshua, so they had to give some of the cities to the Levites. The Levites don't have a portion in Eretz Yisrael. So they had to give him some of their cities. So what they give him? It says in the verse, Arim Tesha, Me'es Shnei Shvatim. So 2 tribes gave 9 cities to the Levium. Rashi says from the tribe of Yehuda and from the tribe of Shimon, they took 9 cities and gave those to the Levium. Says the Gemara, Ma'ilav Arba Upalga Mehai, the Arba Upalga Mehai, is now referring to 4.5 and 4.5, meaning that each one of these tribes gave 4.5, and he gave 4.5. Oh, hold on. That's 2 halves of one city owned by 2 separate tribes. Shmamina, Bishmamina, Cholkin, Ir Achas L'Shtei Shvatim. You see that one city could be divided up into 2 tribes. Says Rav Haggard, not necessarily. Maybe 9 just means 4 and 5. Lo Arba Mehai v'Chamash Mehai. Each tribe he gave 4 and he gave 5 cities. But you can't have. But you won't. There will not be one city divided between 2 tribes. If that's true, so then the pasuk should have spoke that out. That it's 4 and 5. It sounds like 2 tribes give 9 cities. Sounds like it's equal, which would mean 4.5 and 4.5. You should have spoken it out. The Gemara says you're right. Kasha. The language of the verse is a difficulty for me, and I don't have an answer to you, but I still hold strong. Right? The word kasha means difficulty, but the word tiyufta is like it's like a knockout. So this is not a knockout. The pasuk doesn't sound like that, but it's not the end of the world. That's not going to, as I say, shlug him up. It's not going to, totally reject him. He'll still hold his opinion, and the verse will be hard to read according to him. Okay, ibailu. This is very interesting. Hudchu me'elehen mahu. So let's say on their own, they went and did idol worship on their own. So mahu. So do you say they have to be convinced by other people or not? It says vayedichu amar rachmana v'lo shhutchu me'elehen. They have to go and be convinced by others and not convinced on their own. Maybe that's what the verse is telling you. Alternatively, odilma afilu hudchu me'elehen. Oh no, vayedichu. People can convince you to do avodah zarah, but for sure, if you on your own go and do it, so then that's for sure going to make constitute you to be a ir hanidachas. Tashma says the Brisa hidichu nashim b'kanim. So let's think about it. Women and children cannot qualify to be the subverters, the instigators, right? So you have women or children that start convincing a whole state to do avodah zarah. And the Mishnah told us that doesn't work. But hold on. It doesn't work because they were the instigators, but why can't that be considered like I did it on my own? If doing avodah idol worship on your own can still qualify you to be an ir nidachas, so who cares if it's women or children that put the idea in your head, but you yourself now went with it, so you should be also, that should also constitute an ir nidachas. So why is that not good? Amai? Let it be like they were convinced on their own. They did it on their own. So says they were no, big difference. This is human psychology. So hanach basar nafshayu greedy, hani basar nashim v'kanim greedy. Sorry, these were greedy. They followed other people. These they did it on their own. When someone starts convincing you, that's not the same as doing it on your own. So our question was, if you totally on your own come up with the idea to go serve idols, is that considered like you were subverted from yourself or not? Women or children persuading you, it's not viewed as you're doing it on your own. You're following them. So it sounds like if you're following them, that's not enough. When you do it on your own, it's much stronger. It's much stronger of a commitment. It's much stronger of a following when you decide on your own to do something than when someone else persuades you to do that. Yeah, that's what Rashi says. When you on your own do something, that's much stronger than following someone else. Yeah, it's a good lesson for life in general. Let's do 1 or 2 more minutes. Heichi Avdina. Okay, so now, how are you going to do this? Do you wait till 51% of the city has all committed avodah zarah? So you just let one by one people do avodah zarah, and you don't put them on trial? How do you do this? How does it work? Heichi Avdina, Amar Yehuda. So what you do is like this. Danin, you judge them for serving idols, v'choshin, and you put them away, temporary prison. Danin v'choshin. So each guy you judge and you put him away until you get to 51%. But that might take a long time. I mean, how much to keep a guy there? So one guy does it, all of a sudden now he has to wait. So Amar Ula, no, you can't do that. There's something called Inu Hadin. You can't push off judgment. You have to carry out the judgment. So you're going to put a guy into prison now. You're going to wait. That's called pushing away judgment. That's delaying it. You can't delay judgment. Ella Amar Ula. What you do is done in Vesoklan. Each one you judge and you stone him. Once you get to more than the majority, now the rest of them are going to be killed by the sword. Done in Vesoklan. Done in Vesoklan. So Itmar, this action machlokas, Amarayim, Rabbi Yochanan, and Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Dan V'Soklan, Dan V'Soklan. Rabbi Yochanan says you judge them and you stone them. You judge them and you stone them. Reish Lakish, Amar, no, Mar ben Lahu Batei Dinim. You increase the courts, the Batei Dinim, and therefore to be able to judge them all at once. So says the Gemara, is that really true? Ini v'hamar of Cham v'yotzi Amar Boshia v'tzeitzes Isha hu oas Isha hi. Ish ve'isha atamotzi l'sharecha v'etamotzi kol ha'ir kula sharecha. What do you mean you're going to make a bunch of courts just to try them all at once and then bring them all together to get killed? But it says you only bring a man or a woman out to the gates to get killed. You don't bring the entire city. Ella, what it means is mar bin lahu batei dinim. What it means is you increase the courts, and then you look into the judgment, and then umaskina lahu lebezdin agadol. Then you bring everyone up to the great court up in Yerushalayim, the Gamri Lahula Dinayu, the Katlu, and then they're going to finalize the judgment, and then they're going to kill them. They're going to kill them up there. Food for thought is that people that get stoned one by one, according to that opinion, right? So what happens to their property? We know if you're irni dachas, your property gets destroyed also. So right now, but you're being judged as a stoner. No, you're being judged with skila, with stoning, right? So right now, your property presumably does not get destroyed. And then what happens? Once he gets to 51%, then they go back and smash your car. How does it? That's food for thought. Yeah.
The city is burned. It's not because it's lawless. It's lawless.
It's what it says.